Yeah, like following the stroke, I got so what's the word? Like not just bored, but disheartened by not lifting. And the consensus was from doctors was always, you shouldn't lift, just don't lift. But none of the doctors could understand why I lifted anyway. So me and my training partner, we decided, let's just do it. Let's just load up heavy barbells and go for it and do it as safely as possible. But we almost took the line that if I was going to go back to hospital, it was doing something that I really cared about. I didn't want to just sit around and avoid stuff and then still end up in the same place. I'd rather end up
Yeah.
in a bad place because I was doing something that I really enjoyed. So that's why I started lifting again. And there's been no ill side effects. So I reckon you're right. Probably about a month from now, the desire to touch barbells will be way, way, way too strong, and I'll just get back in there.
For sure. I mean, how many times have we heard stories throughout the years of people being told like, "Oh, you'll never do this again. You'll never do that again. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that." And they go out and
Oh man,
fucking
that
do it
was my
anyway.
first powerlifting comp. I was never meant to do a second one. With that hip injury, I got. They said, "Oh no, you shouldn't. You won't be able to squat again. That's it. You're done." And obviously, I did a lot more after that. I just think it's
Right.
I don't know. What do you think? It's almost fun when people tell you that you can't do something to go out and then figure out how to do it.
Right. I mean, well, if you think about the power of the mind, and I think a lot of times we don't really understand its full capacity and full capability. And when we make up our mind to want to do something, and we set out to go do it, you go do it. And it doesn't matter if somebody told you that you can't do it. And a lot of times, like, that becomes the trigger for you wanting to do it. And I can't help but always wonder and think, like, what are we capable of if we don't need somebody to tell us that we can't do it?
Oh man.
Like, why do we
Right.
need that? Why do we need somebody to tell you, "Oh, you can't do it"? What if we just make up our mind before we ever get to that point?
That's a powerful thought, man.
And
That's
like,
that's
from this
really
whole mental health journey, it's the living intentionally. And when I approach things from an intentional standpoint, I don't need somebody to tell me that I can't do it because I've already chosen it before anybody ever said anything. Not to say that, I suppose if somebody tells you you can't do something, if that's the thing that fuels you to do something, then cool, so be it. But I still can't help but wonder, like, what do we do if we can break free from that limitation of needing somebody to tell us that we're incapable for us to believe that we're capable?
Because let's face it, that drive to push back against people, it's fairly immature, right? Like I've made jokes for years. It's if you want me to be really successful, activate my my small child, my inner small child, where I say, "You're not the boss of me. You can't make me." It's almost like a defiant child not making their bed or not eating their greens at
Right.
dinner time. And obviously, like we mature on from that for most things, but I guess in this one we're choosing to stay back with that immature mindset of, well, you're not the boss of me. You can't make me. What's the next stage of development then? Where should we be aiming for?
Where should we be aiming for? Well, I suppose it's going to be different for every person, right? Like, what you're aiming for is going to be different than what I'm aiming for. But I think at the end of the day, if we cut cut through all the little stuff, the ultimate aiming point, you know, we typically define the aiming point with like an outcome, with a goal, like, oh, I want to hit this amount of pounds on a squat. I want to do this. I want to do that. But what about the process and the journey to get there?
Mm-hmm.
Because that is what it will take to get to that point. So how do I how do I try to explain this where I think I can articulate it in the way that I want to articulate it? We get so wrapped up in that outcome, the goal orientation, the achieving, the accomplishment, and we lose sight on the actual act to get there. And if we lose sight of the act to get there, because we're so focused on the thing, the accomplishment, we'll never actually get there, because you don't get there through inaction, you get there through action. Yep. So we have to be focused on the action and the process and the journey, and like the whole quote, well, life is about the journey, not the destination. Like that's a lot of what that means, is like the focus on the process, the action, what you are contributing, what are you putting into the system, not what are you getting out of it. And whether that be in lifting or in life, you look at a lot of people that have the most enjoyable experiences, they're not focused on what they're getting out of it. They're focused on what they're putting into it. And like from a training perspective, I know I feel the best in my training when I'm focused on what I'm putting into it rather than what I'm getting out of it. And I know that when I focus on what I'm putting into it, man, I get a shit ton out of it. Not just in terms of progress and gains, but just the experience and all the different things that come from it. Like I learned so many different skills from pushing through that discomfort and the sweat and the heartache and the blood and the sweat and the tears and all that stuff. Like you get so much more from it focused on that effort. Yep.
I think the word that you keep on, that you're sort of circling around a fair bit, is autotelic. Yeah, so
autotelic. I'm unfamiliar with that word.
So doing something for the sake of doing something that's in and of itself, that's just a good thing to do. That you know, we can train so that we get a result, or we can train to train. And like what you said, like focusing on the quality of our attention, the ability to focus, all those sort of things. You're right. Like I think half the time, just I'll put in terms of the bench press. Just bench pressing is fun. Like you go, why are you bench pressing? You go, well, have you ever tried it? It's really cool. have you ever tried it with more weight on the bar? It's even cooler. So that perpetuating cycle of, yeah, I'm just doing it because doing it in and of itself is a good thing to do. You know, kind of like something like showing kindness or charity to someone. Like you don't do it so that they're instantly better. You're showing kindness because kindness just in and of itself is a great thing to do.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help but feel like when you're talking there, that's kind of what you're getting at with all this, the training. And I'm sure you've done it for years now with powerlifting, that it's not so much about what you put on the bar. It's how you're moving the bar. It's how you're moving, how you feel, how you're engaging with everything.
Definitely.
Should we do these questions? Okay,
what
so I got 36 questions that I pulled from research. Some research I was looking a while back, and it just looked like a really fun thing to get together and ask friends to get to know my friends a little bit better.
Okay.
I've been having a lot of fun with it. I probably won't ask you all 36 because there's some questions that I realize I never ask. I don't like them. So I won't ask you the one right at the end about whose death you would find most disturbing. I just don't like asking that question anymore. But there's some other ones that some are deep, some are pretty superficial, but for the most fun, it's just fun to ask people these questions already.
Yeah.
So, number one, given the choice of anyone in the world, whom would you want as a dinner guest?
Anyone in the world, who would I want as a dinner guest?
And we've decided for this one that we're going to limit it to real people that are alive. Yeah.
Real people that are alive. Cool. Because that's fun, because the first person that came to mind is actually a real person that's alive then. I would have to say at this point in my life would be Tony
Robbins. Okay.
I really appreciate a lot of the work that he does. And like every time that I see what he does and what he talks about, it's really neat to me. Like, I don't know him that well. I don't know everything about his story, but the bit that I know, it seems like he almost shouldn't be alive.
Yeah.
Because of some medical conditions that he's had. Yet here he is, this man like living life larger than large, and not just like consuming, but like creating things in life that are to the betterment of humanity, and like has this gigantic ripple effect to making other people's lives better. And that is cool. Like, that to me is way cooler than way cooler than like a bench press PR or a squat PR. Like, as fun as that stuff is, like the fact that this guy is having such a gigantic ripple effect on so many people is just amazing. And like across from multiple different types of cultures of community, right? Like, we know each other through the powerlifting community, and to have an effect on the powerlifting community is awesome. Like, I love being able to contribute to the powerlifting community. But here this guy is contributing to multiple different communities in a lot of different ways. So I would love to be able to sit down and have a soul depth searching conversation with him. That would be cool.
Do you have a list of questions for him, or would you just want to see where the conversation goes?
I would have to want to see where the conversation goes. I feel like with how I've done that with Project Unchained and the podcast, with that and chatting with people, I feel like I have gotten to know people better when I go into the conversation without a plan and just reminding myself to be curious. Yeah. And the times when I've gone into interviews as the interviewer and have had this plan and these list of questions, like, oh, I want to know this about that person and this about that person and this and this. I like just go through this list of questions, and the conversation is an interview and it's not organic and doesn't have the depth to it. And so I think reminding myself to be curious, like, what is it that makes this person tick, does a lot to get past the surface of it all.
When did you first encounter Tony Robbins?
I believe I think it was around the time that I moved down to Georgia. In 2018 was when I moved from Alaska to Georgia. And before I moved, I started doing a pretty significant major life change in my mental health and well-being, and searching and cultivating more in myself. And that move was a big turning point in my life when I suppose a core component to that for me was I can't change the people in my environment, and I as much as I love and respect all these people, I can't elevate in this environment. So I need to change my environment. I need to start my life over. And that was part of the reason to move. And that move, like on the drive down, I listened to so many audiobooks, and that was the first time I started listening to audiobooks. Yeah. Yep. And like I got sucked in, and now I listen to audiobooks
just out of
all
curiosity,
the time. I also read
how
books all
long
the
was
time.
that drive from Alaska to Georgia? That's a big drive, right?
It was, oh man, it would have been, I forget exactly how many hours it was, but it would have been like the first leg was 4 days, 12 to 16 hours a day. And then the second leg, because like I split it up. It took like a whole month to move with all the different travel and stuff that I was doing at the time. But the first part of the move from Alaska basically to Minnesota to spend some time with my family was 4 days, 12-ish hours a day. And then the second leg was 2 or 3 days, 14 to 16 hours a day, something like that. It was 5,000 miles. I put 5,000 miles on my truck. I remember that.
So that's plenty of time for podcasts and audiobooks.
Yeah, it was a lot. And one of those books was Tony Robbins' Unshakable. And there was 2 books that I listened to more than 2 books on that drive, but there was 2 books that really impacted me. There was The Brave Athlete.
Okay, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, The Brave Athlete, Calm the Fuck Down. That was fantastic. And basically, like, it's a whole introduction of the chimp paradox. Have you read the chimp paradox?
I'm developing a good reading list out of this morning. I like this.
There you go. It's a whole spin off the chimp paradox of, like, you have your chimp brain, the brain that is your survival mechanism, and the other part that is like higher level consciousness. Only it's spun up into an athlete for an athlete. And that book was great, and Tony Robbins' Unshakable was great. Both those 2 books made me drive longer on those days than I anticipated, because they sucked me in and I wanted to continue to listen. And so I continued to drive for multiple more hours than what I had originally intended on those days listening to those books. And so that was super impactful.
What was it about Unshakable in particular?
Well, the book, the name is Unshakable because that's the point, is to be unshakable. Like, you're going to have, life is going to happen. There's nothing you can do to stop for life from happening. And there's going to be times when it caresses you on the back and, oh, yes, you're a good boy. You're wonderful. You're amazing. Here's a really cool experience. Here's love. Here's joy. And then it's going to turn around and it's going to kick you right in the fucking dick. And it's going to be hard, and you're going to be overwhelmed, and you're going to have all kinds of hard emotions. And you got to do it anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
And like, that was big for me because I'd always been shakeable, very shakeable. I mean, there's still times where I am shakeable, and I need to shift from the old school paradigm of harden up, and because harden up to me is like, oh, you don't experience and feel the emotions, you just turn them off and shut them out. But unshakable to me is you experience them and you go for it and do it anyways. I have doubt, I have fear, and I'm going to do it anyway.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so it was cool because it was like a financial book on, like, pursuing financial freedom. Yet, like, the core of his message was less to do about dollars and pennies and more to do with the psyche of it all. And so that was really, really interesting to me. Like, here I'm reading this book that's supposed to help me from a creation of financial freedom standpoint. And here I learn more about myself and the core of my being than I do about the dollars and cents. Whoa, that was cool.
Probably tells you a lot about where wealth really comes from then, doesn't it?
Yep, absolutely. And that's one of the things that he talks about in, like, the whole I suppose the conclusion of the book, I think, is where he talks about that, is that wealth has nothing to do with your bank account and has everything to do with, the magnitude and quality of the experiences that you contribute and create in this world. I don't know if that's exactly what he said, but that's my interpretation.
If it's
of
not,
it.
that's a pretty good paraphrase, I think. I was just thinking, Tony Robbins, I first encountered him in late night infomercials in the 90s. And then have just kept on every few years, come back around to, like, he'll pop up in the media, and like, when I say pop up, he's like 6'5" with acromegaly, so he's, it's anytime he does
Right.
something, he stands out. For the longest time, I thought he was a charlatan and a fraud. He was a sales guy.
Mhm.
Until I started,
Right.
every now and then he'd say something interesting. I go, okay, we can apply that. We can test that. And I'd test things that he'd do. And I go, oh man, this guy's on. Like, this guy's genuine. It's not a sales pitch. He's not just, he doesn't have this machine that he's trying to churn out cash. I think he's really genuine with the way he approaches the world. I find him fascinating. My big introduction to him was, I think, around 2013. He wrote a book called Money. And it's the same deal again. Like, he goes through all this stuff with billionaires or multimillionaires and their investment strategies and how they do anything. And really, it's a treatise on how to focus and how to develop long-term strategies.
Yeah. It's interesting for me, especially now in the last couple of months. I have been getting into some options trading, and I've been doing that because I see the potential to make a good financial impact on my life and my family, and thusly other people in the world as well. So I've been going through and learning how to the process of trading options and how to look for signals in the market, when to buy in, when to sell out, and different things of that nature. And what's really interesting about that entire process and the people that I've been learning from is the psychology that goes into it, and like, you think about it, you're going into this thing like, oh, I want to make money. I want to get rich. You go into that with that. If you go into it with that attitude, you're going to get smashed.
Okay.
Because it can't be about that. It can't be, oh, I'm going to go into there. Excuse me. It can't be about, I'm going to go into this and get rich. Like, they very much talk about risk management and talk about, why are you doing this? And like, there being a deeper reason why you are trying to do this. And like, that's been illuminating to me, because, initially there's definitely like this draw of like, oh, I want to go make more money. I want to go be rich. Cool. Great. Why?
Yeah. And so I guess that draws straight into a values conversation, doesn't it? What's really important?
Yep. Like, why do you want to be rich? Like, I'm like, I look at that, I'm like, cool. Like, the second they started talking about that, I'm like, oh, wow, cool. I like that, and I appreciate that, because it's not just all about money, 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 money. It's about, what impact do you want to do and create? And so, like, I look at that stuff, and I look at the financial aspect of it, and I'm like, oh, how can I broaden my reach and impact and influence of the world in a positive way if I have a better financial position? Like, what other things can I do to better not just like my immediate life, but like the life around me?
What sort of answers are you getting to that question?
Well, I suppose the low-hanging fruit on some of that stuff is if I can make money on something like that, then I'll be less worried about making money from a business standpoint with the podcast and trying to grow that. And I can just give it the fuck away. And I don't ever have to be like, oh, how is me continuing to do this going to like bring like a revenue generation? How am I going to generate revenue off this?
Yeah.
I don't have to care. I no longer have to care about that. Just here, go pollinate in the world. Done. And paying somebody to edit the podcast, that would be fantastic to be able to take that off my plate, because then I can just make the thing and go spend time with the family.
Right. How long does editing take you for your podcast?
Depends on the episode. Depends on if it's... I'm going to give Toastmasters International a shout out. Toastmasters International is a public speaking group, and it's fantastic. It's one of the most amazing, worthwhile personal development experiences I've ever had. And it's helped me learn how to speak from an interview standpoint so much better. And from the podcast standpoint, like when I do just a solo episode, I can pretty much jam out a solo episode with minimal editing time whatsoever.
Oh, that's cool.
Because of Toastmasters.
This is probably where I should tell you that I am a fellow Toastmaster. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. My favorite part is table topics. Oh
yeah, table topics is good. That's what this is all about right now.
Be asked a question. Here you go. You got 90 seconds. Away you go.
Yep. Can you answer that question without a bunch of ums and ahs and ands and buts and unnecessary words? And are you able to craft your message in a clear and succinct manner?
Can you take 3 seconds to think before you speak?
Not be able to.
That was one of the biggest ones for me, is having this compulsion to fill every space with a sound instead of being able to sit back and think about what do I want to say and then say it.
And then I think another part of that too is like taking a moment to think about what do I want to say. And then when you create that space, what do I want to say, for that space to not be inundated with, what should I say? What should I say? What should I say? What should I say? What should I say?
You kind of don't want to stand up behind your chair and just be freaking out and having that panic attack in your head of, I don't know what to say.
Right. Yep. And so, so Toastmasters has been a big impact on that. And like I say, when I do a solo episode, generally speaking, I can put down a couple of notes, a couple of bullet points, and talk through it. And when I get done, it's mostly a matter of slapping on the intro and the outro and done.
There you go.
But if it's an interview, then there's a lot of times where I might have to edit some stuff, especially like in this online setting, you know, the connection gets a little bit disrupted and you have to edit some of that stuff, but it's not too bad.
I've taken the I think I spoke about this with the previous guest about why I don't edit or why I don't do any of those sort of things. And like at least 50% is still because of energy, like how much time editing takes. And when my friend and I set this up, we wanted to investigate play and like different forms of play. And I get this why the game as well, that word play and social play is a lot of fun as well. And if we're going to do a play-based podcast, we wanted to leave every single one of our errors in there. Like we couldn't, which for me, sometimes listening back is, because I like excellence. I like high quality everything. And so now I have to leave things that I don't think are high quality. I have to leave them in there. Like that little clink of my cup being set down, things like that. just getting stuff wrong, but having the courage to leave them in there now and go, this is what playing looks like. There's going to be a lot of mistakes. There's going to be times where it's awkward.
Mm.
You're going to have pauses that nobody quite knows what to do with. We don't always understand where the conversation begins and ends, but we want to be true and authentic in order to leave it out there and just go,
Right.
Have at it.
Yeah. I hear you. I agree. I don't edit any of that kind of stuff out. If there's a clink of a coffee cup or I touched a microphone, whatever, I don't edit that stuff out. The only stuff that I really edit out is like when there's a true interruption, like, oh, hold on, the kid just woke up. I got to go change
like
the
when
diaper.
the mailman comes and knocks at the door and stuff like that.
Yeah, something like that. That'll get clipped out. But for the most part,
what do you think then of I had this conversation a week ago with a guy that came from a sound engineering background. Certainly, especially in the early days of podcasting, I listened to a lot of podcasts that I'd never listen to again because of the sound quality was so poor. So it was almost invasive and interrupting. That I'm pretty sure they got together in a Coke can and recorded on their iPhone. But I'm also finding now that I've started to do my own podcast, a polished sound also sounds a little bit intrusive and almost gets in the way of the conversation.
Interesting. I think that the things that I've tended to learn is that for the most part, generally speaking, the host of the podcast needs to sound clear. Like their audio equipment ought to sound at least close to, if not better than the guests. Right. So like you and I both have decent microphones. Cool. We both obviously host podcasts and so that quality matters. But I wouldn't ask a guest to be like, oh, hey, I need you to have this equipment in order to be on my podcast. Like, I'm not going to do that. If you want to, if the best you can do is on your phone, we'll roll with it.
Wouldn't that be fun though? Like, tell a guest, can you just pop out and buy a $500 Rode microphone and just a little mixer?
Right. Or for your podcast to be so successful that like you have a recording studio and you just fly everybody in and you record in the recording studio with you.
Yeah, that's the dream, right?
That would be wild.
Maybe we can you and I can share a studio, but we just have to make it centrally located. So we'd have to fly to Hawaii to do episodes. I don't know about you, but I'm down for that.
All right.
I can do that. Well, I'll take the hit for the team.
Yep. That would be fun. Rosalie wants to go to Hawaii all the time, so she won't be disappointed about that.
What would you? I love the idea of Hawaii. I think more than I like actually going to Hawaii. It's almost one of these places that I'm not sure I want to go there because in my head I've romanticized it so much that I'm sure if I get there, it's going to be another American city, and that would disappoint me endlessly.
Yeah. I've not spent a lot of time in Hawaii. I have been there for work when I was still in Alaska, and it was cool. But at the same time, it's probably not a place that I'm super excited to spend a lot of money to go to. Like Rosalie's like, oh, let's go to Hawaii because it's tropical and the beach and blah, 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 and all that fun stuff. I'm like, cool. Let's go somewhere closer. We're in Georgia. Let's go like to the Caribbean or somewhere there where it's much closer. It's much less expensive. It's easier to get to. It's all the same things, just easier. And just the way I like to travel, I want to go see what nature and the earth has to offer to me, not what man has created and built has to offer to me. And Hawaii has struck me as one of those places that has become an urban jungle.
Has it now? Okay. Is in my head, it's like I'm thinking Jurassic Park. That's the Hawaii I want to see. I want to see Jaws. I want to see the big waves. I don't really care. I don't even know what's in the cities. Like if you said what's in Honolulu, like, I don't know. I just want to see big waves. That's definitely the attraction for me.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah. I mean, that stuff would definitely be cool to see. I wouldn't complain about that.
What's the big? Actually, up in Alaska, do you get waves up there? Like, this is often my question around the world now. Can you surf where you're from?
There's people that surfed in Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't one of them, but there was the boar tide. I think it was the boar tide is what it was called. So it's interesting about Alaska, and when you get further away from the equator, low tide, high tide is a greater differential. And there's spots in Alaska where you would have like a 40-foot differential between high tide and low tide. And man, that makes for a wild perspective when you go into a place that is in high tide and you're like, oh wow, there's a lake. And then a couple hours later and it's low tide and you go over there and it's a raging whitewater river where there was a lake. And you're like, whoa, that's really fucking different. Holy shit. And like, there's literally that. Like I saw that in Ketchikan. Like it was really neat. So with the boar tide, hopefully I'm using that word correctly, is like the changing of the tide, and it creates a big wave that people would ride.
Oh, I've seen those.
I never rode
I've seen those before.
Snowboarder, so
you snowboard?
Yeah, that was my forte. Not so much the surfing. I'm a shitty swimmer. So.
Okay.
And the second I fall off the board, I'm done.
Somebody said it was during the Olympics. An American person said to Australians, "Why are you guys so good at swimming?" And we're like, "Have you seen where we live?" Like, no, literally none of us live inland. Very few people live inland. Like, even when you live inland, the coast is accessible, so everyone swims. A lot of people learn how to surf early. But I was just thinking about that tide difference. Where I'm from, if you rocked up at high tide, you'd go to the beach and go, "This is a lovely beach to swim at. This is awesome. Let's come back here all the time." Next time you go back, you accidentally go there at low tide and you have to walk for 500 meters to find the water's edge. Yeah, like, because the coast is so flat, and you have the big tide differences. When the tide goes out, the tide is out. Like it's kind of funny. It also creates a conundrum for people that haven't driven their trucks on beaches before. So more than once, I have seen a car drive onto a beach at low tide, get out of the car, go for a wander, only to realize that about an hour later there's water up over their tires, and they're not getting their brand new Land Cruiser out of that.
Yeah. Yep.
It's always fun seeing a $100,000 submersible Land Cruiser on a beach.
Oh, definitely. There was a place in Alaska called Beluga Point that would happen, not in the same way, but there was a rock at Beluga Point that a lot of people would go out to on low tide, and they'd get up on this rock, and next thing you know, tide comes in. You're stuck. Good luck.
Hey, so going back to Robbins and podcasts and all these kind of things and doing what you do, would you like to be famous?
I think I'd like to be impactful.
Yeah, okay. That's come up a couple of times now. I think fame is a weird commodity. But to be impactful, it comes with at least a certain level of fame or notoriety, doesn't it?
Yeah. Like, would I like to have 1 million Instagram followers? Yeah, absolutely. Would I like to have 1 million Instagram followers that I can't add value to their life? No. Like, I don't want to be I don't want to be famous for frivolous, superficial reasons. If I'm to be famous, I want to be famous because I'm adding value to other people's lives. And that's it. And, like, since we're in sport and we're powerlifters and we're athletes like that, like there's a lot of times where athletes are really famous, and that's fantastic. And I hope, and I like to see when athletes use that platform to provide and add value to the world.
Do you have an example that springs to mind?
And I think that can get...
For someone that does that?
I mean, I think there's a lot of different people, a lot of different athletes that do that. You look at a lot of the different programs that exist in the NFL, the National Football League. Since you're in Australia, you might not know what American football is.
Rugby with pads. Safe rugby.
Yeah. Safe rugby. There you go.
Oh, hang on.
There's a lot of like programs that exist there.
It's Nerf rugby. Let's face it, Nerf rugby.
Nerf rugby. Oh, okay. But I mean, that's why there's more there's more money to be had in the NFL than there is rugby. So, but no, in all seriousness, like John Dorenbos is the guy that comes to mind. He was a long snapper in the NFL for 15 years. He wasn't necessarily like a super popular NFL player because he was a long snapper. He's not in a glorified position. He's not the quarterback or a running back or wide receiver. Like, he literally snapped the ball for 15 years. And he wrote the book Life is Magic. And like, he went through some shit. His father brutally murdered his mother when he was 12 with a bench grinder. And he went through, a bunch of therapy and different things of that nature. And one of the things that was very therapeutic for him through that entire process was magic tricks and shuffling cards. And he got really, 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 really good at shuffling cards and became a magician because he could shuffle cards like a boss. And also became a long snapper in the NFL and did that for 15 years. But towards the end of his NFL career, he was on America's Got Talent for his magic tricks. But he also does motivational speaking and all that kind of stuff. And he wrote that book, Life is Magic. And at the end of the day, one of my favorite things from John is he has the quote, "You can either live a life of vision or you can live a life of circumstance."
Oh, I like that.
But the choice is yours.
I like that.
Yep. I love it. When I first, you've been to the Arnold. So when I first read his book, was on the flight to the Arnold. I forget which year it was. It was after I moved here. So it would have been probably 2019. And it was one of those books that I started to read on the plane, and I read the entire plane ride. I could not put it down, and I fucking bawled my eyes out like through the first 4 chapters because it was so emotional. It was amazing.
So for let's just break for a second. So that book title again and the name. I just want to give people a chance to write this down.
Yeah, Life is Magic by John Dorenbos.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I've got 4 books now out of this this chat.
You're right. And like, it's just a beautiful book. And like I say, he talks about getting to that point where you can either live a life of vision or you can live a life of circumstance. And I think about stuff like that. Like, here, this guy is in the NFL. Like, sure, it's not Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady, but he's having an impact on the community. And like, not only is he doing that on his own, but again, like thinking back to the original part of the conversation, like there's a lot of different programs in the NFL where these players go out and do things that are impactful to their community. And like, that's one of the things that I think about. I'm like, man, that would be cool to be in that position, to be like being able to do that, not just in the NFL to play football, because that would be fucking cool to play a game and make millions of dollars to play a game. But to be able to do that stuff, to go out in the community and create that kind of an impact, that would be cool.
Normally, right about here, I'd ask you a question about your perfect day, but I'm far more interested in what's your vision then for the podcast, for powerlifting. What like, obviously, I love your podcast. I think the conversations you have are amazing. But what's the vision?
That's a good question. There's, I suppose, a couple of them. Whether they're necessarily super intertwined with each other or not, I don't know. I try not to get too attached to being hyper specific and trying to let just a general vision guide it. But one of the visions that I'm working towards with the podcast is to be a space and an advocacy for people to share their stories and people to share their mental health triumphs, because I find it really invigorating and really inspiring to hear people's vulnerability, to hear people's ability to smash through an obstacle. And I want to share people's stories with that. And as much as I enjoy thinking about different perspectives and trying to, when I have to do like a solo episode where it's just me, I try to think about like, how do I twist a perspective on something? Like, here's a limitation. How do we make that an elevator? Like, while that's fun for me and enjoyable, I still really want it to be about the people. And I want it to be about, I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about the community. I want it to be about the people. I want it to be the people sharing their stories of, hey, you know what? This was a limitation in my life, and this is kind of how it got created, and this is how I smashed through it. Cue you going to do that now. Or you drawing inspiration to go smash through your limitation, whatever it is in that moment. So that's like one of the overarching themes, is to be the voice of the people, so to speak. From a powerlifting perspective, the influence that I would hope to have from the podcast is to show and guide people in their powerlifting journey that as much as we focus on the total and building the total and putting 5 more pounds on the bar, 5 more kilos on the bar, and we want more, doesn't fucking matter. I get it. We want more. That's cool. And it doesn't fucking matter. What matters is that we enjoy the amount of effort we put into it. We enjoy the blood, sweat, and tears that we go out into the gym and we grind and we grind and we grind. If we're not enjoying it and we're only thinking, oh, I need to put 5 more pounds on this because if I don't, then everybody will think I'm a loser. That sucks. There's no fulfillment or joy or meaning into that. Like, it's okay to pursue excellence. I definitely don't ever want to stifle that. And at the same time, it need not define us in the way that, like, if I don't get 5 more pounds, I don't need to beat myself up about it.
Yeah.
I don't need to feel like I don't need to have any hard feelings about it. It is what it is. And I think about that, like, when I went and did the Abs Pro in 2021, I think it was. I can't remember. And you lift
It
long
all
enough, it
blurs.
all just
It's all one.
blurs
You
together.
did one. I did one meet ever. I just did that meet a lot of
Yeah.
times in a lot of countries.
Right? Exactly. And so it's cool. I got invited to this really amazing pro powerlifting meet that Jay Ferret puts on in Ireland every year. He's been doing a really cool job, like making a spectacle and making a show and making it like really fun and exciting. And I got invited to it. And I'll be completely honest. Like there was a lot of hardship for it for me because a former lifter of mine, Eamon Harford, who lives over there, messaged me. He's like, "Hey, is any RTS lifters with a 500 dots want to come to the Abs Pro?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I got a 496 dots. I'll come." And he's like, "Oh, okay. Here's your invite." Oh, well, I was kind of joking,
Okay.
but cool. All right. Like, so the whole prep, I'm struggling with these feelings of adequacy because I didn't technically have a 500 dots. And I got this invitation because of my position in life and blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the day, I had to get to this point, and it was so liberating for me that none of that fucking matters.
Yeah.
None of it matters. Like, I can't take any of that so seriously. Did the earth stop spinning? Nope. Doesn't matter. Did my life cease to exist? Nope. It doesn't matter. Okay, cool. You know what? Let's just go have fun, dude. Let's just go have fun. And so I made the promise to myself to let's just go have fun. And that, from a like training and lifting standpoint, I was not healthy. I was still struggling with some hip stuff in that time frame, but I wanted to do it anyway. And so I go over there, and I had from a performance standpoint, the worst meet of my entire career. I went 5 for 9. I almost bombed out because of bench press, and bench press is supposed to be my lift. Like, that's the one that I'm the best at comparatively across the 3, and I almost bombed out from it. It was awful. Performed like an asshole at a pro meet. And I'm like, man, I had a good time. I had a real good time. And the biggest reason was because I finally disconnected the like assumed personal worth and valuation with the outcome of my performance.
That is huge for any lifter when you get to that point. It doesn't matter how good you are, what level you are, but everybody, I think, that becomes successful and does well in powerlifting or sport in general has that realization at some point. It just doesn't matter.
Yep. And here's the thing, though, too, right? Was I proud of that performance? Was I happy about the way I performed? Absolutely fucking not. Absolutely not. I was like, dude, you did not lift to your standard at all. Not okay. Go do better. Okay, gotcha. Cool. And I had a good time because I met some really cool people. We had fun. We flapped some jaw, like all kinds of stuff. And I went and had a vacation with my family. When I got done with having a bad performance, I was able to disconnect from the bad performance and go have a good time with my family rather than carrying over I'm a shitty lifter into vacation with my family, because then that would have just sucked even worse. And it was a really cool experience. It was one of those moments where you can realize, like, I can detach my being from the outcome of the performance. I can be unsatisfied with the outcome of the performance, and I can still be good and grounded for myself as a person and as a human. And that was so liberating. And in all honesty, like, that was such a big moment. I didn't really realize how important that was in the moment. I can now on reflection, because powerlifting has gotten so much more fun since that point. And I've performed a lot better because now I don't put any of this unnecessary dumb pressure on myself.
And that's one of the biggest things we do as lifters, isn't it? It's the unnecessary dumb pressure. There's a lot of necessary pressure in powerlifting. Like lifting heavy weights, there's a certain pressure. It has to be there. It fuels success. It drives attention, all those really important things. But you're right. There is so much unnecessary pressure that we put on ourselves that doesn't need to be there.
Yep.
I'd love to share with you the story of how Australians ended up at the Arnold Classic in the US, because we weren't invited for years and years and years, and I think it speaks to what you're talking about here. 2013 was the first time Australians were invited to the Arnold Classic. It was myself and Amir Fazeli. We were the only two that came, but there was a third person, Stephen Pritchard, it was Stephen Pritchard that was responsible for getting Australians there. Stephen and I had competed at a couple of worlds before that time, and so we're known to some lifters, and we used to just run around trying to make friends with people because it was a 2-person team or a 1-person team, so we had to get out and meet people, or else we didn't have handlers or anything. We had no assistants. We didn't have a coach with us. We didn't have a team. So we just tried to be really friendly and get people to help us. And one of the people, 2 of the people that helped us was Tony Cardella and Priscilla Ribic. Tony, we went and hung out with in 2010 when we were in Texas, and it was heaps of fun. And so we just kept on pushing these relationships. And eventually we petitioned Priscilla for quite some time that Australians should be at the Arnold. Australians are really cool. We're gonna add value. We're gonna entertain. We're gonna be there. So we got to the Arnolds because we were persistent. It wasn't because we were good or we met the qualifying minimums and all those kind of things, but we really pushed hard to get there. And so the first year was myself and Amir. Amir was a big deadlifter, and obviously I had a decent bench and a decent subtotal in the raw comp. So I did the raw comp and I did the bench only. And we worked on just being really nice to everyone again, become friendly, meet people. At that point, pretty much nobody knew who I was for the most part. I knew Brad Gillingham pretty well by that stage, and Kim Walford was just so welcoming and nice. And she was the first person from the US that went out of her way to say, "Hey, I'm Kim. Welcome. We're glad you're here." At the end of the weekend, lots of people wanted to shake my hand and introduce themselves because they go, "Oh, wow, this guy's a 700 bencher. We'd never heard of him. This is cool." But I secured an invite for the next year by being super nice to everyone, by forming really strong relationships. I was just off the podium each time, but I had this belief that I probably didn't quite belong there, or it wasn't me, because Mike Teixeira at the time he was just top of the tree. He was almost untouchable in raw powerlifting, especially on formula. And then Blaine Sumner was massive. Joe Capolino was doing good things in both forms, and it just seemed like I was off. I was making up numbers. But by being really nice and getting to know people, both Johnny Graham and Priscilla and Larry, they all said, "Come back next year. We want you back." And then the second year we were there is when I podiumed. So I like to tell people we got there because we were persistent. We didn't give up. We got invited back, or I got invited back because I was a nice guy. And then I confirmed their faith in me by being good. But being good was the third thing to come. That was a long way down the track.
Yeah.
It then led me to have a really, really cool conversation with LS McLean, the great and powerful, the wonderful LS, that and I heard it, and this was one of my proudest moments ever. He quoted me in a podcast a few years back that as soon as you leave powerlifting, nobody's going to remember what you lifted. Actually, most of the time, once you leave the meet, no one really cares how much you lifted, but they'll care if you're a good bloke or not. So just try and be remembered as a good bloke. And make every one of your interactions about how I'm going to be remembered, knowing that they probably won't remember my lifting. I'd much prefer they remember me as being a nice guy that probably bought the first round of the bar, that was quick with a laugh, that didn't take himself too seriously. And that, I think, made powerlifting for me really, really fun. Because I realized for me, it was never going to be about being number one. I was just, in hindsight, I was never going to beat Jonah Leo on bench. I'll copy this little part here and send it to him. He'll be really happy to hear that. I probably wasn't going to beat. I wasn't going to beat Freddie Smalter. Like, I always thought I could, but it was probably never going to happen. But my time in powerlifting and what made powerlifting great was relationships and approaching every meet from how can I have the most fun? How can I make this the most fun for everyone around me, so that we all come back next year and we just want to do it again and again and again.
Yeah. Definitely. That's so spot on.
I think once you understand that attitude, big lifts and high performance are just a natural occurrence that come out of that. And in my head,
Absolutely.
I had reversed the order for years and years. That once you started lifting really well, then you would have that carefree attitude. And it's the other way around. Always the other way around. Once we stop caring so much about the result, I think lifting becomes not easy. I'd never say easy, but it becomes simple.
There's a point with all that I feel like I want to be careful about articulating, though.
Yeah, go on.
Like, because you still care.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, care is, yeah. Yeah. How can I put it? I cared about the outcome, but but we're not ascribing meaning where meaning isn't present. So I care about doing a good job in an autotelic kind of way, because caring about what we're doing in and of itself is healthy and fun. And I think the care that we show with these things is one of the things that almost allows joy and fun to exist in that space.
Right.
But I think where we go wrong, we care about the outcome and then we attach meaning to that outcome. And it's the meaning attached to it that I think I learned how to not care so much about. So I won. That means I'm really good. I don't care if I'm good or not. But winning's fun. I care about that. I care about the lift that went into winning. And I care about how I'm seen, but the meaning then, that second step, I guess, or the second and third connections to those things is what I was always trying to dissolve.
Yeah. Definitely. Like, one of the ways that I try to approach this that I think is beneficial to me, like thinking about it, I'm in the middle of preparing for Masters of Worlds right now. Full truth, I want to win.
Of course, yeah.
Like, and not only do I want to win the 83, like I want to win best master. Like that's my eye.
Yep.
That's where I'm aiming. And I want that. And I care about that. And I understand that I can experience a multitude of things all at the same time, and it's not so black and white. And I think like that's the part that always tripped me up, is that like it was always so black or white. Like either you win and you do the thing, or you don't. And there's no color to it. But the thing is there's a lot of color to it. We can experience it, like, and what a cool thing to get to at one point in your life, when you can realize that you can experience joy and sadness all at the same time. Like, whoa, I can feel those different things at the same time. And that, to me, like, why that's so important is because that's one of the core fundamentals to being human to me. is the ability to feel and be connected with those emotions on a multitude of different layers, and it not just be one or the other. Like, that's for, I don't know, that's for simplistic organisms, I guess, for, for lack of a better word. I'm not sure, but like, that's one of the gifts. And I think a lot of times we deny that gift, and then when we deny that gift, we make it like one or the other. We make it black or white, and we can't allow ourselves to experience the range of it. And when we can't allow ourselves to experience the range of it, that's when we like attach that meaning and value in a detrimental way.
I think we're trying to simplify when we're trying to give that meaning. We're trying to simplify and create certainty where certainty doesn't exist.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's a good way to put it too.
Oh, wow. I realize I've asked none of these questions, which is normal. Very normal for me. I want to find out a little bit more about the Masters Worlds prep, because like your story over your journey in powerlifting over the last 4 or 5 years has been what's a good word? Convoluted? I don't know.
I suppose.
Like adventurous. It's not a straight line, which I really enjoy. I think it's a little bit more, and I think doing this with powerlifters as well, having these longer form conversations, it's really, I think it would be easy for somebody sitting back on the internet to just watch your competition results and go, oh, it's a straight line. It's very linear. There's nothing really going on there, but
not at all.
That couldn't be further from the truth.
Yep. Yeah. Like trying to summarize a lot of detail into a very short, concise point from like a powerlifting perspective in like 2019, 2020 timeframe ish. I was at my all-time strongest. It was the first time I squatted 600 pounds and was deadlifting. I forget what it was. I hit 280 kilos for a by 1 at 8 in training at the same time when I hit the 272 and a half for a single at a 9 in training for squat. So that was like my all-time peak strength. And it was amazing. I felt on fire. It was great. And it was right after that I go charging into the next block on fire and just was too aggressive and just suffered not so much like a major catastrophic injury, but I had this like deep pinching in my hip that was enough to get my attention constantly, and I couldn't quite push and train hard. And that nagged at me for a long time. And I couldn't quite ever get it figured out. And every time I would start to feel better, I'd be like, oh, okay, cool, I'm better. Let's start training hard again. Oh, nope, you're not good. And so I was just constantly going through that. And I was really starting to get to this point like, man, am I done? Like, shit. Like, this sucks. Like, I don't feel like I'm done. I don't think I'm done. But, man, I can't get over this thing in my hip.
How long had you been going on before you got to the point of questioning?
Oh, that's tough to say. I don't quite remember how long that was going on before I started to question it. But I mean, I dealt with that for over 2 years. It was well over 2 years before, like, and that's when the abs bro thing came up, and I was finally starting to feel like I was getting a handle on it, and I got the invite, and I'm like, oh, I'm not really ready for meet prep, but this is a really cool opportunity, so I'm going to do it anyway. And that probably prolonged it a little bit longer, because then it was after that meet that I'm like, okay, I got to really take a serious break. Not from lifting, but from like trying so hard. And it was also that meet that allowed me to realize that I don't need to try so hard anymore. It doesn't matter. I don't need to take this so seriously like this. And I think that made a big difference in helping resolve things. And as those resolved, it's been gangbusters since then. Like I'm at my all-time PR strength at a lighter body weight, because like when I hit those numbers in 2019, I was at 88 kilos, and now I'm hitting those numbers again, and I'm at 83.5 kilos, 84 kilos, almost not even going to have to water cut going into Worlds. That'd be cool. I'll probably still have to water cut a little bit, but
do you notice how when you tell that to a super, we all go, "Oh yeah, no water cut, yep, no,
yeah, yep."
Water cut. That's
funny.
where you don't have juice in the morning before you lift, right? Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
yeah, sure. For an entire week. But I feel like I'm just getting started. Like I feel like I have so much more to gain and go now than what I did a couple of years ago, where I was like, "Oh man, am I done?" And I'm like, "No, man, I'm just fucking getting started. Let's go." And at the same time, it doesn't matter.
I want to go back to this meet in Ireland and talk a little bit about your mindset and the stories you tell, and especially the stories you told where you gave meaning to certain events. Like, what was the meaning you gave to lifting? What did it mean to be good? All those kind of things, and then maybe from Ireland going forward, what's changed in terms of what things mean to you?
Well,
I'm watching your eyes sort of roll around. Going, oh, hang on, this is.
Yeah. Like how much time do we have?
I've got all day. Yeah.
Right.
I'll explain why I ask a bit. Like because we've spoken before about where you've come from, especially as a young man, and certain events having such strong meaning in your life, and really a lot of the time having a strong negative meaning. I'm really interested to see how that kind of played out powerlifting wise, and then how that plays out now in terms of because we all assign meaning to things, possibly poorly at times, where we're not helping ourselves in. If I can hit this means X. If I miss, it means Y. All those kind of statements in there. Right. I know I used to, for the longest time, if I win nationals, people are going to think more of me. Didn't change what people thought of me. Eventually, it changed what I thought of myself, and I think that's where the meaning was. And so, I think, in terms of my story, a lot of the meaning was about how I reflected on who I was as a person and as a lifter. Yeah. And I've got a sneaking suspicion that you've probably gone through a very similar journey.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. Can we take a quick bathroom break?
Yeah, sure, man.
Into that?
You go, and I'll do the Excellent. I'll do the what we do, and I will do a table topic. I'll just talk until you come back. All right, mate. See you in a bit.
All right, sounds good. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go for it. So, here's the questions that I haven't asked so far. Then, before making a telephone call, I'm guessing Ross doesn't rehearse. Perfect day, the singing to yourself. They're all really, I find these really interesting questions, but this journey that Ross has been on with injury, coming back from injury, changing mindset, where injury's been a key driver, relates really similarly to my story. My first comp, developed a hip injury because I fell over in the warm-up room. That's a story in and of itself. But then having pain be one of the main focuses in training for such a long time, I know that definitely shaped my personality, because we're always trying to figure something out. I think most powerlifters listening to this understand that in powerlifting, we're always trying to figure something out. There's always something to solve. And part of the attraction is that we can solve it. Normally the question is, how do I add 5 more kilos or 10 more kilos to my squat. And so we set up a plan, we write a program, we do the work, we see the result, we add 10 kilos. We go, okay, that's a straight line. We figured that problem out. What's the next problem? How do I add another 5 kilos? So we keep on going again or again. But with chronic pain, it is an all day, every training session, trying to figure out how can I move without causing pain. If you think about for a second how easily then your identity forms around your relationship to pain, constantly having to work out, is this going to hurt? Is the next thing going to hurt? I think that really, really colors an individual's personality. We know from the research that pain, especially chronic pain, does change the way we think, the way we operate in the world, and the way we see the world and ourselves in the world. So Ross, welcome back. We're talking about chronic pain, and this is the bit that really interests me, is when you were working through all that stuff with your hip, what do you think that did to the way you saw the world? Obviously, it's frustrating not being able to solve a problem in training, because normally we're pretty good at solving problems. We go, how do we get another 5 kilos? We go, how do we do it? Having a problem that doesn't resolve itself and almost throwing the kitchen sink at it at times to try and get beyond that pain. What do you think that did for you in there? What was the meaning that you ascribed to the pain? I think you said it before when you said after a couple of years, the meaning was, am I done?
Yeah. Like you're forced to face your identity, like in the thing that you think that you are. Like, oh, I am a power lifter. No, powerlifting is something I do. Powerlifting is not who I am. You know, and like I've heard that before. I've echoed that before. I've said that before. But I hadn't yet, until that point, been blessed with the opportunity to face that within my own core being. And when we're able to face that and embrace that, and we can I suppose create some resolution with it, it's at that point that we can let it go. And that's kind of what a lot of it was for me. So to kind of understand this from my perspective and my world experience, I have to go way, way back. In my youth, I got bullied and picked on a lot, to the point where at age 12, I was suicidal. And I didn't feel like I was worthy to live. I didn't have friends. There was just a whole lot of mental hardships going on for me at that time. And a couple of months later, so that would have been the summer going into 7th grade, and in 7th grade was when I started playing football, and it was awesome. I got to hit people as hard as I wanted to, and I didn't get in trouble. And it was a massive release of the anger and pent-up aggression that was inside of me. And I'm like, oh, this is fun. Great. Cool. Sign me up. Let's go. A couple months later, it was track season, and I found the weight room for the first time. And that was a pivotal moment. I walk in the weight room. My first time ever walking in the weight room, I was greeted by a senior upperclassman, captain of the football team, track team, basketball team, homecoming king. Everybody wanted to be him at our school. And he greets me. He's like, hey, what the fuck are you doing here? You're just a little bitch. You'll never be anybody.
Encouraging.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Encouraging, right? And I had just been suicidal, literally tried to take my life. And this is how I was greeted. Whoa. Fortunately for me, there was another senior upperclassman in the weight room at the time, and he stood up and he's like, hey, nobody talks to anybody like that in my weight room. Get the fuck out of here. Kicks him out. Comes over to me. He's like, hey, you want to learn how to lift weights? Scared out of my mind. Yeah, sure. He's like, oh, today's bench day. Let's go. I'm going to teach you how to bench. Okay. And I haven't left since.
Yeah, right.
There was something pivotal about that moment that changed the direction of my life forever. And man, like there's been so many different layers for it for me. At first, when I started to lift, it was like this exercise of the anger and like just smashing myself physically. Like it like I felt like I was in control, and I felt like I could exercise that anger and that hurt. And it was almost like instead of me hurting mentally, I could hurt physically, and that was easier to handle. Like the soreness of lifting weights. And then I also got bigger and faster and stronger, and that got me attention, and I got good at sports. And I was like, oh, cool. Attention, validation. I hadn't ever had that before. People like me. Fantastic. And what I didn't realize in the development of all of that was that became my validation. That became who I was. That became how I identified, and everybody saw me as that person. And so my whole world was wrapped up around that. Through a lot of other mental health journeys and therapy, I started to unwind a lot of that. Great. It was really important and valuable for my life, but I didn't really have the opportunity to quite unwind the validation that I sought through lifting until the hip injury. And when I was finally able to like go through that process, and like a lot of times we don't even realize we're in it. And that's the hard part, is that we don't even realize what we're experiencing in the moment until we get through it, and we're like, oh, wow, thank you. That was so huge. And so I can look at that and reflect on that and be like, man, that freed me. Because I didn't realize how much I still anchored into my self-worth, because a goal of mine was I wanted to be into the top 5. I felt like I could get into the top 5 on a national level. And as the sport grew and expanded, I couldn't keep up in the pace of it. And so I was like pushing, I need to do this. I need to get into that point. I need to be there. And I didn't realize that unconsciously I was tying value, an unnecessary amount of value to that, and my body revolted against it. And it was when I finally realized, like, oh, it doesn't matter. I let go. And it was the letting go of that attachment, of that definition, that like let some of that go. And I think like when I love to get into the psychology of pain in the body. And I think about that like catching in the hip was like, in that resistance in the hip was that bit of resistance that I was holding on to. And as I let go of that, it let go.
Pain is a crazy thing, isn't it?
It is. It is. And so it's like, when I say I don't care, that doesn't mean I'm not going to go fucking train hard. That doesn't mean I'm not going to like make sure my protein's on point, or that my diet and nutrition are on point. That doesn't mean I'm going to be a lazy fuck and watch Netflix all day.
Yeah.
It means that I don't care about finally what other people think.
Ah, there it is. It's the external validation that we stop caring about, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. I'm not seeking that. I'm open to the experience as it unfolds.
So when we let that bit go, the external validation part, that the external validation somehow makes us who we are, or confirms a part of our identity. When you let that go, what happened next? And when you say let go, I'm assuming that this was a process over days, weeks, months, whatever it was. It probably wasn't a single event.
Right. For sure. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely, because I think that's a really good point, and that's something to really highlight, because I think a lot of people get tripped up because they want, without knowing it, I think people like want these like magnificent moments that benchmark everything. But it's not necessarily these moments that are like, oh, magnificent breakthrough, everything changes, now it's all different. It's a lot more of a gradient that it kind of changes and shifts a little bit more over a little bit more of a period of time.
Yeah, I think
and you kind of get to the other side of that shift and that other side of that change, and you're like, huh, oh, yeah, fucking cool. Look what I just did.
Right?
Go me.
I think you're just nailing it. We tend to look for this one day. I think that's why seminars are so popular. Like, it's great if you can go to one event once, read one book, listen to one podcast, and then I know, like, angels descend upon a ladder and going up and down to heaven, and you have this moment of clarity and go, oh, everything's different now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if you look at people that tell that story, they're normally cult leaders or selling something. I found that, you know, and listen, you mentioned Tony Robbins at the start. Having heard him a lot in interviews, the stuff that people go, oh, that was a one-off event. He talks over the period of years how his mindset shifted. It wasn't a one thing. It was maybe one event, and then reflecting on that one event for a year and discovering the changing meaning of certain things over time. And then, like you said, we look back and what's changed over the last 2 years, you go, wow, yeah, a lot's changed. I don't think the way I used to think anymore.
Yeah, definitely. It's like a big part of my routine, I guess, for lack of a better word. I journal a lot because I value the introspection. I value like the space for me, when I journal, I can't write as fast as I can think. So it slows a lot of the stuff down, so I can start to make sense of it. I can start to organize it and actually understand, like, what are these thoughts that I do need to engage, and what are these thoughts that I need to just let go of. And there's a lot of times where, like, I'll need to journal and reflect on some of those thoughts through the course of multiple days and multiple journal sessions to really get to the depth of what I need to get to. And so it's never a singular entry. It's a multitude.
Do you ever go back through your journal entries and read? Never?
No. Not one time have I ever gone back through my journal entries.
Yeah, interesting. I think that, I moved house about a year ago, and we downsized a lot. And so one of the things I did was to throw out a lot of journals that I'd kept for years. And mostly I kept all my old diaries and journals because I didn't know what to do with them. And I had a weird fear of somebody walking around a rubbish tip somewhere, like walking around the dump and finding my journals and just flicking through it and going, oh yeah, that Nathan Bax. Now I know all of his demons and the things that he doesn't like about himself. And so I'm like, all right. And so I ripped the pages out just to make myself feel better. But I realized how nutty that was, thinking that anybody would be interested in reading a journal from 1997 about my innermost thoughts.
It can be so wild how our brains do that to like create that story. And all of a sudden, like, our brain makes that thought and we're like, oh, well, that could actually happen.
Which
Come
I
on,
think
man.
is
like, is that really going to happen?
One of the key reasons why I've journaled for my whole life in my head, and this happens with everyone, that thought, that story is highly logical as long as it stays inside my head. If it's a series of thoughts, Of course, somebody I know would be walking around the local dump. Of course, they would find my journal from when I was struggling with something. Of course, they would want to read it. And then, of course, they would want to publish it. And in my head, that's logical. But as soon as I say any of those things out loud or write them out, you go, oh, wow, that's really dumb. That's quite funny. That's amusing. But it's not until I externalize it that I can see how silly it sounds.
I had such a massive breakthrough the other day.
Yeah,
I want
go
to
for
share
it.
this with you because what you just said is so huge. And I'm so grateful for my partner, Vanessa, and her continued support and help in my journey in life and all that stuff. She often gives me a hard time about my introvertedness and my proclaimed introvertedness. She's like, you're not introverted. I'm like, yes, I am. I don't want to hang out with people. And we had this conversation the other day that is very much on that same lens. Like, when I'm internal, I am my worst enemy because I make up stories like that.
Oh, and they're all believable.
But when I'm right, and the creativity that can come from some of those stories, you're like, man, I am a creative motherfucker.
The Marvel Universe have got nothing on me. I can come out with way better outcomes.
Exactly. Right. But the second you externalize it and you bring it out, you either realize like how silly it is and you can dismiss it, or you can connect with something a little bit deeper to create some resolution. And it was in that moment when her and I were talking about that part of me, like when I internalize, I become my own worst enemy, and how that plays into being introverted versus extroverted, and how much more important extroversion is to me than I've ever given it credit for this very reason. Like, whoa, that's huge. I didn't really ever think about it. And so, like, I think about what does that look like in practice, in actuality, in action steps, because that's like I'm also like behavior. Like I need to what is the thing to do? It's this. It's conversations like this, whether it be a podcast or just having a conversation with a friend or a group of friends. Like they need to happen on a regular basis. And I think from a like holistic standpoint, most of us are like that. And most of us are far more extroverted from an externalizing these things than we ever give them credit. And that we really want to realize, because there's so many of these different things in our society that like promote us to be internalized and promote us to shut us down or promote us to be shy or something along those lines, because we're like vulnerability is considered weak, and or like we're not good enough if we talk about the weird idea that's rolling around in the back of our head that, you know, somebody's going to read our journal and make a scary movie out of it.
Yeah. For me, it's they'll know exactly how messed up I really am. I'll be exposed. And then I realize,
right.
Oh, everyone knows how messed up you are anyway. It doesn't matter. Just get along with it. Right.
And it doesn't. A big cue that I like to try and remind myself about stuff like that when I like realize I'm taking all this stuff too seriously is like, is any of this going to stop the earth from spinning? Nope. Doesn't fucking matter. There is nothing, literally nothing that I can ever do that will have that kind of an impact. So the way I like the perspective, right? Like, what does that do for me? It sets me free. Because now I'm not taking things so seriously that like, oh, well, I have to do this or I have to do that. Nope, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Cultivating that attitude, I think, is so. Not only is it protective against harm, it's empowering. I'm going to say nourishing. I think it's really nourishing. For me, obviously, we've talked about my mental health struggles on your podcast. Living with a brain injury and dealing with a lot of PTSD-like symptoms. I'm not going to say I have PTSD. I refuse to say that, but I deal with a lot of stuff like that. And so there's some days taking that really big, long perspective of zooming right out and going, well, you know what? Sun comes up in the morning. We'll give it another go. And I'll just say something like, you know what? Today, the PTSD won or depression won. All right, I tried, did a really good. I tried my best, and that just didn't happen the way I wanted it to happen. But that's okay because tomorrow morning I get another go. And me failing or succeeding or being anywhere in between those 2 points just didn't matter. I get another go, and I can try again, and it's okay. Because if I succeed, the world's not going to stop. No one throws a party. We don't pause for a while to go, hey, Nathan got something right. And equally, if I get something wrong or something doesn't go my way, the world's not going to stop. The world's not going to suddenly recognize, wow, things went poorly for Nathan today. It's just, let's zoom out. The world keeps spinning. From that, the moonshot means that the earth is still a beautiful place if we zoom out far enough, and then we just go again.
Yep. And now I think a really important part of this that I like to bring into the fold when we talk about stuff like this is like, while it doesn't matter, because that can be grim. Like, oh, well, if it doesn't
What's
matter,
the point of anything, right?
I don't have to do anything.
It's not nihilism.
I mean, what's the point of anything, right? Right. But think about what it takes for your body to have energy and life.
Mm-hmm.
Like that now is fucking beautiful. Like the fact that your heart is beating and your mind is having these thoughts and is capable of having these thoughts, and we're capable of having this conversation, and we're capable of pondering the meaning of life, and we're capable of pondering what is joy, what is sadness. Whoa, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Right? So there's this like, it's beautifully insignificant.
Beautifully insignificant. Yeah, I like that.
Life is this human existence is both beautiful and insignificant all at the same time. And that's the spectrum, right? Like if we spin it back to powerlifting, that's why it can matter to like hit a PR and be happy about it, or miss a PR and be happy about it. I can experience all of it at the same time. And it's all okay. And the only thing that ever trips us up over that is when we place a judgment value on it as being good, bad, right, or wrong. That's the only thing that ever fucks it up. It's the
It really
judgment.
is, isn't it? So how do we get to that place of, well, there's no place of non-judgment, but how do you get less and less judgy? Particularly about, because let's face it, we've met a lot of extremely judgmental powerlifters over the years. It is a personality type that seems to do well with our sport. So, and we objectively measure almost everything we do. So I guess judgment is easy to fall into that trap of judging everything the same way. So how do we reverse that attitude of everything as a judgment?
Well, I think one of the first steps with that is just particularly because of what you said, is to disconnect, or rather measure and judgment aren't the same thing. If I'm measuring a lift, it's not the judgment of a lift, it's the measurement of it. It doesn't place value. Like judgment places value. And at the end of the day, none of this stuff, or rather, value is abstract.
Oh, there we go. Value is abstract.
Right. Like, because I don't want to say like it's non-existent, because, well, it is existent, but it's abstract, right? Like self-worth. We talk about self-worth from all this different perspective. Like, how do you measure self-worth?
Right. We look for what we think are correlates, but there's no way to truly measure.
But what we think.
So that thing.
Right. What you think is different than what I think.
In there, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah. And therefore it's abstract. Because it's not physical, it's not tangible. You can't touch it, you can't pick it up, I can't throw it at you. You can't throw it at me. As much as we might try to, like, oh, well, I'm a better bench presser than you. I try and throw it at you. It's an invisible
if you're a really
object.
good bench presser, you pick up the bench and throw it, right? But yeah, you're right. It's totally abstract. It exists only in our heads. Actually, I'm going to retract that, because everything only exists in our heads sometimes, maybe.
Right. The sport of powerlifting, right? Only a good bencher doesn't wear a bench shirt.
Right. Yep.
That's an abstract idea. That's an abstract judgment.
It's quite arbitrary, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think the biggest thing to, like, for somebody listening to, like, connect with a lot of this stuff is just, it's just the awareness and the understanding of that's what it is, and accepting some of those things and having the awareness to that it's an abstract idea needs to be enough, because we can't define it more. We can't, like, parse it down more. It's just, it becomes the awareness, acknowledgement, acceptance. Like, it's an abstract idea. It's an abstract measurement. It's not concrete. We can't actually measure it. That's what it is.
So perhaps then just the realization that whatever value or meaning we place on anything powerlifting related, it's exactly that. It's abstract. Yeah. So that's the letting go.
I had a really cool conversation with Newton Chang some time ago. I don't quite remember exactly what it was, but we were talking about it through this lens of, like, powerlifting and like self-love, and this concept of self-love. And, like, this idea of if how did I bring that up? It was I brought up LeBron James. Like, do you only love yourself if you're as good as, like, where the pinnacle is? So if we look at LeBron James as, call him the pinnacle of the NBA because he's now the leading scorer in the NBA to ever exist. Like, so that's 100. Every point below that is less than 100. So if we anchor ourselves of self-worth to that 100, well, then what am I? Well, I'm 0.
Yep.
I've scored precisely 0 points in the NBA.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Takes on a different tone when you put it that way, doesn't it? Then if I insert this back into powerlifting, so we're saying if I don't have however many kilos I am off the world record defines my value. That how can you be, it's almost like asking, how could you be happy with yourself and love yourself when you're 12? That's actually a question I've asked myself in the past. How can you think you're good, or how can you feel that what you've done brings value to the world when you're 17th? And I think you're really proposing the antidote to that it's not dependent on those numbers. It's not depending on that ranking list, that it's somehow operating in a complete different direction to the way we've been measuring it.
Yeah. And perspective is everything. So if we shift that perspective and we look at what value that 17-year-old is, what if we measured it or looked at it from a different perspective, as in, like, what did that child do for that parent that then up-leveled that parent to up-level the world around them? Now all of a sudden, that 17-year-old who may or may have not accomplished anything is a lot more valuable in that regard.
I like that we've somehow got to self-worth and self-love out of who you would invite for dinner. Let's see if we can land it there. Make this the final question. Let's talk about self-love, because that's a very non-powerlifting kind of theme. I know for me, self-criticism in powerlifting, I really work that skill out and refine that skill a lot. And something that Ben Wright and I talk about in training all the time. Ben is a under 88 kilo Paralympic bencher over in Paris at the moment. And we talk a lot about the self-criticism that we've developed through powerlifting, that we can be highly critical of what we're doing. And for me, it used to sort of spill over into not self-hatred, but talking to myself in ways that I would never, ever talk to a friend or to somebody that I was training. Like, I'll give you an example. If I was worried about an attempt, especially in training, if I didn't like the way the setup was for a squat, I'd re-rack the bar, I'd take a step back, and literally in my head, I'd be yelling at myself, stopping a pussy. The least loving thing that I could say, I'd say to myself in order to drive myself back onto the bar. And I think doing that for a long time was incredibly harmful. So I'm not saying powerlifting sets that up, but it's certainly a culture that we like to, what's the word? We encourage it in powerlifting, the critical nature. So what in your head, what's the steps, what's the challenge then in order to bring self-love back into the training cycle? Being able to identify errors, but do it in a very compassionate, empathetic, loving way that edifies ourselves within training and continues to build, rather than using the tear down tactics in order to build something.
Are you familiar with Don Miguel Ruiz?
Yes. The 4 agreements.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep. So that's probably the first thing that comes to mind is Don Miguel Ruiz's work. I've read a couple of his books. I've read a couple of his son's books, Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. and Don Jose. Amazing stuff, and have consumed a lot of their content. And I really appreciate a lot of the beauty that comes from the Toltec wisdom teachings that they bring to the table. And one of the 4 agreements that comes from there is I'm drawing a blank on how it's actually worded. I wanted to paraphrase it, but I'm drawing a blank on it. But basically, like, to speak the truth and not use the word against yourself.
Yep.
And I pair that with the idea of, well, let me back up. If you're not to use the word against yourself, that's basically to say that, I'm not going to speak to myself in a derogatory way, much to the way that you're talking about it. Like, I'm not going to talk to myself in a way that I wouldn't also talk to somebody else. If I can't say it out loud, don't fucking think it. And we're going to have thoughts that we don't want to say out loud. And that's okay. We're not bad or wrong for having them. What we need to do in moments like that, in my opinion, is like be aware of it. Be aware of the fact that, hey, I just called myself a little pussy for bitching out on this set or something along those lines. I just spoke to myself like that. We acknowledge it. We become aware of it. We accept the fact that I just said that to myself. Because to me, like when we look at that and we acknowledge the fact that we did that, that gives us the opportunity to create change. Awareness is the agent of change. Whereas if we don't go through any of that process, it's going to continue to operate in the background unless we bring a little bit more intentionality to it. We have to, just as much as we train our muscles, we have to train our mind. So if we're training our muscles to press horizontally or squat or whatever that muscle group is that we're training to move in a certain way, we have to train our mind to move in a certain way as well. And so when we bring the awareness and the acknowledgement to the fact that I was talking poorly to myself, okay, what do we do about that? We have to, you don't, one of the perspectives that I hold on stuff like that is you don't turn a habit off. You change it. You replace it.
Yeah, I think that's
so. If
really,
your habit is talking
that's a really
negatively,
important point,
right? So if your habit is talking negatively about yourself, you have to replace it. You don't turn it off. You replace it. How do we replace it? Well, again, first, being aware of when you bring those statements to yourself. Be like having a game plan. What do you want to replace it with? Like come up with some kind of statement or statements that you can plug in and replace it. And what will likely happen is you'll come up with a statement of whatever it is that you want to replace your negative statement, your derogatory statement with. And you'll still be in the derogatory statement. You'll still say that negative thing, but you'll start to bring more awareness to the negative thing, and you'll start to inject the more productive thought process to it. And you'll get closer and closer and closer to the moment of impact, the moment of which you would normally talk negatively to yourself. And you'll catch yourself before that actually happens and before the negative thought spews out of your mouth or internally in this instance, and you'll plug in the productive, positive thought in its place. But it takes time and practice. You have to cultivate it, just like we do with training our muscles. We have to practice and cultivate it. It doesn't just happen. It's not, your PRs aren't given, they're earned. Your self-talk isn't given, it's earned. Like it's created. You are the creator.
Yeah.
And like, if people were to get like religious about it and think about it like that lens, like we are creators. Like that exists within us. We all create and contribute to every single experience we have. Every single experience that you've ever had in your entire life, there's one thing that every single experience you've ever had has in common. You.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah. Yep.
So when we think about it like that, we're like, oh, I am the common denominator. Cool. All right. What can I do about that? I have the choice. I have the power. I have the ability to cultivate and create. That exists within every single one of us. That's why I love to spend time in nature, whether it be on my snowboard or mountain biking or meditating or gardening. Like gardening, I love gardening.
It is, isn't it?
So like cucumbers. Cucumbers are really cool. They're like, because they're vining. And one of the things that I love about when like my cucumbers will grow and they'll grow out through the fence and they'll be way out through the fence. And I'm like, oh, plant, what are you doing? You need to support yourself. Go back towards the fence. It'll be way out there. I'll go out the next day, and there it is on the fence. I'm like, man, nature found its way to support itself. I am nature. That same ability that exists within that cucumber exists within me.
Wow. Yes. Yes, it does. Yeah. So let's see if we can bring it back around to the start. That requires a lot of intentionality, doesn't it? Yeah.
Definitely. And that's the hard part that a lot of people face. We're not always living very intentionally.
Just underneath intentionality, I think, and I don't think a lot of people realize this, but you've mentioned it more than once since we've been talking, is intentionality is underpinned by curiosity.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be intentional without being first curious about what's really going on, and then applying an intention to be curious in all that we do, to find out, not to prescribe, not to be certain about what's going to happen next, but to hold things in tension and to be curious about the outcome. And I think to be curious about self is a big thing in there as well, isn't it? Like, what do I really believe? How did I get here? How did I arrive at this thought process?
Yeah.
How did I arrive at this?
Not
right?
the stork.
Yeah, it's not the stork. There's a journey to get there. There's bits and pieces that went into building that. And like you said, because we're creators, we build this over time. And all of these events that we're a part of, or things that happen, things that we see or hear or feel or experience, they all contribute to whatever is created next. And so I think holding that, intentionally holding curiosity to find out what we do next, I think that's exciting.
Definitely. For anybody that's thinking out there like, oh, I'm not a creator, I don't know how to create. You were at one point less than what you are. Like your body created and built itself. When the sperm met the egg and those cells met and formulated whatever the fucking process is and started to split and divide, create. Your body created itself. You are a creator. Fundamentally, your skin sheds and replenishes.
We grow new stuff. Yeah.
You are a creator.
Yeah.
Yep. And while there's some things that you can't, like if you cut out a kidney, your kidney's not going to regenerate and grow itself. Like I get that there's some limitations to that. However,
yeah, we're creative. We're not omnipotent or timeless. Like we're bound by time and space, perhaps. And we could get into some cool philosophy about that at some other time.
Right.
But yeah, we're
right. There's a wormhole.
I've got all day to dive down that rabbit hole. You got to sleep tonight, so we'll maybe let's avoid that for now. But I think you're right. We are bound, like we're bound within that. But it's everything we do is a creative act when we get down to it, because it hasn't happened yet. Until it happens, it hasn't happened the way we think it might happen or we think it could happen. But until it happens, it hasn't happened. And so it's an exciting adventure that we get every morning to go, oh, my eyes are open. My feet are above the dirt. All right, This is exciting. What's going to happen next?
Yep. Yeah. And I think, too, when we approach life through that lens of, one, I'm a creator, and two, the intentionality part of it and being curious about it, like it's those moments that we really get to go forth and contribute to life in ways that excite us, in ways that are fun and they're not stressful, and it doesn't matter. Because we're just being curious. We're just exploring. It's just a science experiment. The outcome doesn't fucking matter. The outcome is just a data point to inform you whether you should continue the experiment or change the experiment. That's it. But it doesn't matter. We're just exploring.
Curious explorers. It doesn't really matter. But at the same time, it matters a lot.
Right? It matters, but it doesn't.
Yeah, that's it. I think that paradox it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous, that freedom to go, it doesn't really matter. But it also, everything we do matters. But it also doesn't. In quite the same way, an electron can be in two separate places at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. Two separate hemispheres recording the same podcast at the same time.
There we go. I did